Joe Leonard. All right, so today is January 18th, and today is a university holiday, a national holiday. And again, we all take pause and recognize the many great things that Martin Luther King did in terms of his individual actions and the movement that he started. And we're going to continue on with this and make great progress in our country. Got to be positive during these really difficult times. I've just kind of turned my camera around a little bit from where I was at before because the sun's kind of shining bright over there. All right, that's where I was last time. It's what it's all about, man. It's kind of home learning. Okay, so I'm in student view once again. Okay, and so what you will do every week, okay, and you should just kind of set this up in your, take out your phone, have it, get it, put it in your calendar, get an alert, and just to remind you, hey, every week have to go in and do this, all right? So what we'll do is we'll go directly into the weekly assignments, and this again is an explanation of how everything is laid out. So that's, I'm not going to go through that. You can read up on that. Here's all the different week assignments, okay, which is way cool, all right? And so we'll go into week one, all right? And so what we'll do is we'll just kind of go through this and look through the forward through trend five together. And I'll give you my interpretation on what you guys have your own interpretation. And so what you do is you just kind of click on this guy right here, okay, and up it pops, okay? All right, and so this is a global perspective. So we're gonna, you guys are going to be part of an international economy. There's a good chance that many of you will work in many different countries post-pandemic. It is going to happen. We're going to be traveling a lot again, or you'll be interacting via teleconferencing. But it is a global economy, and so it's best to understand what's going on globally in terms of this phenomenon of aging. It really has huge, policy, economic impacts for those of you going into the business world, and then we're going to talk about the personal impacts as well. All right, cool. So we scroll down here, and again, what we're doing here is we're going to do forward through trend five. All right, so we look at in the forward, and again, this is just good. The forward is really cool to read because it gives you a real context with and an overview of what the entire first half of this article is all about. Okay, and it's just keep it open during the quiz if you're going to be mercenary about it, and I'll show you how to do that. But just kind of read it for enjoyment. All right, so. One of the big deals that is going to be discussed is the burden of disease. Okay, we are certainly more vulnerable the older you get to having diseases. Okay, and we see that in trend four, the focus is non-communicable disease, meaning it's not infectious. Okay, the meaning heart disease, cancer, diabetes. Okay, these are the biggies. Alzheimer's disease. These are chronic, slowly progressing, but really debilitating diseases that have a gigantic financial burden individually and also socially. And then when we look at the big picture, we look at the entire global population because there's costs, and that cost has to be paid by social insurance called Medicare. Um, Theirs was a bizarre intersection, however, of these non-infectious, non-communicable diseases and infectious disease this last year. And I do think we could have predicted this better. And that intersection is the coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, and the consequent disease condition, which is called COVID-19. And lo and behold, people that have these non-communicable diseases, like I was talking about, whether it be cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and obesity, which is a risk for everything. So we're going to learn about that. Okay, obesity is the biggest risk for diabetes. Diabetes is the biggest risk for Alzheimer's. All these kind of cause changes in the way your body works, and the coronavirus kind of took advantage of that. All right, so these people are at highest risk, and of course, when we look at the epidemiology, which is the study of who's getting sick, who's dying, old people that have these underlying disease conditions are highest risk. So it was it was a perfect storm this year, and we're gonna have to rethink a lot about what we're doing. All right, cool. So that's what that's all about. All right, so let's go in here. So they talk about chronic diseases, okay? Um, they talk about how the studies have been done. You know, we have these cross-national scientific research. Okay, science is a good thing. I've been a scientist my whole life. Okay, and basically, you know, how it's you know, we cannot be blind to the reality, and so waiting is not an option, and it's better to address these challenges full on. And this is true, again, socially at a society level, but also politically, because the politics of DC, the state, and locally has to finance how we're going to help these vulnerable individuals. And it's also, you know, at a personal level, you know, you have to start thinking about right now, wrapping your head around, you know, how am I going to take care of my parents and my grandparents? How am I going to take care of myself? Because before you know it, you know, it seemed like just yesterday I was 25, you know, and here I am, I'm 64. All right. Alrighty, so that's the the background on the study, and so we can get in right here into kind of the overview, all right? And in the overview, there's just kind of some shock and awe that goes on here. We see in 2006, and this particular article um, bounces back and forth from historical data and future projections. Okay, so 2006, we saw that we had 500 million people worldwide, whether 65 and older, and the projection is within 9 years, 2030, that will double to 1 billion, and 1 out of every 8 people on Earth will be over the age of 65. Okay, these are huge jumps. Okay, this is a rapid increase, and you have to adjust. You have to adjust because of the socioeconomic issues. All right. Okay, so again, this goes to the background of the data, okay, and I know a lot of you guys are business majors, so I always like to just kind of give it to you in terms of the business perspective, okay. So this the global aging that we see is kind of an intersection of advances, okay. First of all, it's medical advances, okay, treatment of cancer, treatment of diabetes, treatment of heart disease, okay, how we can get people to live longer, you know, the development of medicine to treat infections, that allows us to live longer. If we didn't come up with this vaccine, we were going to take a serious hit in the older population worldwide, and we already did. So the coronavirus has caused a decrease in life expectancy worldwide. Okay. Um, so there has to be social adjustments, and then there have to be economic advances to accommodate all these. Okay, some of the economic advances are funneling money into the medical community. The government funded the big surge in research and clinical trials for developing the vaccine for the coronavirus. Okay. Um, as we are successful and people get a lot older, we retire, okay? And at age 65, we all go on to Medicare, okay? This is called social insurance, okay? Somebody has to pay for this, okay? This is not a bank account with savings. Basically, money goes in from you as you're working, and it immediately goes out and pays somebody's social insurance, okay? Which means that more and more people are older, right there at that present moment, then more and more money has to come in. Okay. The other thing is Social Security. Okay. So those are the two big in terms of the entitlements. Okay. Alrighty. Um, we can scroll down here, okay, and kind of look at what's going on in the why, and then in subsequent chapters it expands on your understanding. Okay. All right. So when we look at the overall population, this is just looking at, all right, how many people do we have, and what's the age structure? How many 5-year-olds do we have? How many 20? How many 70? How many 90? We just want to know, okay? And we see, if we look at all that in the distribution, we see that on average, okay, and also in terms of the distribution, population is aging, okay? All right. So this is a big deal, and like was said earlier, people over the age of 65 are going to way outnumber um, um, children under the age of 5. And this is this kind of replacement factor. This is not going to go away. It's only going to become more and more divergent. Okay, so life expectancy is increasing. Okay, every once in a while we take a hit. Okay, we actually had a decrease in life expectancy last year from the opioid epidemic. I mean, and the life expectancy is if you're born in 2021, okay, we can project, okay, that you will live 79 years, okay? But, and this is looking at everybody, okay, all, 370 million people in the United States, okay? Um, the average life expectancy is going to go down if a big chunk of the 370 million die from an opioid overdoses, okay? All right, so 370 is the total. So let's say they're, that year, let's say 5 million people were born, okay? Those 5 million would be projected to live 80 years of age. However, if there's a big increase in opioid overdose and deaths, then the average life expectancy moves down, okay? Same drill happened with, the coronavirus, okay? All right, so these are challenges that have to be overcome, okay? So that being said, all right, people over the age of 85, if we just make demarcations, are the oldest old, and they are the fastest growing population. We'll look at this graphically as well later on. So when we get to these first things, non-communicable disease, that means it's not infectious, okay? It's a slow, gradual, age-related disease, a chronic disease, diabetes, heart disease, okay, Alzheimer's disease, cancer, okay? All right, so these become the biggest burden. And an infectious disease, you give somebody antibiotics and boom, their problem's over in weeks. A chronic disease, this is a lifelong problem, financial problem, okay, economic problem. You think about the amount of money that's spent on somebody that has vascular disease in terms of the drugs that they have to receive to reduce the risk of a heart attack. And then when they do have a heart attack, the hospitalizations, and they go in and out of the hospital over 10 years, okay, bypass surgery, intravascular surgery, on and on and on. This is a big financial burden, okay? So there is a cost of living longer. And that's what we're looking at right here that you have to account for. All right. What are we going to do? We're going to look worldwide, and we're going to see that some populations are going to shrink in the coming decades. Okay. So, again, it's a global thing and it's a national thing. All right. Come back in here. All right. So global, nationally, how about your own personal issues, family structure? Okay. So you're seeing in your own family that there's more and more older aunties and uncles, okay? Your parents are going to live longer, your grandparents are going to live longer, okay? And you have to deal with this, okay? Are you going to hopefully have a nice big house like I have right here, okay, someday? You guys will all get there. You should know that Julie and I started with nothing. I grew up in the east side of LA, in Monterey Park, a little 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and Julie grew up in a just a real middle class part of New Orleans, okay? And we did this on our own. You can too, okay? So this house has enough room so that I can age in place here. If one of my sons decides they want to stay here, there's enough room for us to all live together. All right, so this multi-generational family living in the same place. Okay, we could even build a little what's called a granny shack outside. Who knows? All right, that's option one. Option two: do you have the money to put somebody into what's called an assisted living facility? All right, that's another part. Or you're poor, and we're a very honorable country, okay, and we will take care of our poor and older, but it'll be in minimal conditions, and somebody has to finance that, and that'll be through tax dollars, okay? So family structures are changing, okay? If people have fewer children, there's fewer people to care for their older people, right? Fewer people to pay into the government to care for the less advantaged older people, right? So as a result, you have a lot fewer options. Okay, what's happening too is that if you don't have any kids, you didn't prepare and save well, then you're going to work longer. Okay, and that's already been put into place by the government. There's this shifting target date to get the maximum amount of Social Security, and it keeps getting older and older and older. All right, used to be people would retire at 62. The quote unquote full retirement is 67. I'm gonna wait probably till about 72. Um, and in terms of paying for Social Security, we have fewer workers, okay, paying into the pension of these people that are older, which means your tax dollars are going to go up. And it is what it is. And this puts a whole huge strain on the existing health and pension systems. So social insurance, the two biggies that we're talking about, Medicare and that would be medical insurance, on financial insurance, Social Security, okay? And so yeah, so some countries had really I don't know, I guess I'm blocking on the word here. They were very well financed by taxes, uh, Social Security systems. Okay, there's a lot of money going out to older people. People retire earlier means the workers have to pay for it. Okay, very luxurious. Okay, that's not even the word I wanted, but anyways. Okay, so these are economic challenges that emerge that have to take care of. Okay, all right. So, but it's also a window of opportunity. Okay, so this is all what countries have to do is they have to look at this challenge. It seems daunting, but you have to adapt. You can't put your head in the sand. Okay, you have to be proactive. Okay, that's true of everything. We were not proactive on the coronavirus. We need to be proactive on the financial realities of what's going on in older communities. All right, so this then hones it down, okay, to looking at the cost of waiting, okay. Um, and as we go through this, okay, uh, I think this is a great example right here, okay, what you can do as an individual. So let's say you're a 40-year-old worker, okay, and just take $10,000 per year, and you put it away, okay. And this is what I do. I have 401(b). Okay, we're going to go over the different types of retirement accounts. That's what I have because I work for supposedly a nonprofit. And if I put 10,000 a year, that's from and I retire at 70, so that's 30 years. So that if just on face value, that should be $300,000. Okay, but in reality, it'll be worth 700,000 if I expect just a 5% return on my investment. Now we're not going to be accepting a 5% return on our investment. Okay, I'm talking more of like an 8 to 10% return on my investment, which means instead of being worth about 700,000, it's going to be approaching 2 million just by putting this money in. And why is that? It's called compounding. Okay, every year the money that I put in doesn't just sit there, the $10,000, but it accrues interest. Okay, the worst interest is a money market, which is basically a bank account. The best interest is to invest in companies, which is two different ways. You can give a loan called a bond, or you can buy stock, which is an equity. Okay, these are all great things. If you start when you're 30, you don't have to put that much money. You can just put in 5,500 a year to get the same goal here when you have this 5% return. All right, don't wait. All right, you cannot wait. Okay, you don't want to be hand to mouth. Okay, and that's what this is all about right here. All right, cool. Now, when we look, globally, the huge issue, and there's a lot of redundancy here, but we're looking at 2050, right around the corner. Okay, all the baby boomers will be retiring, life expectancy increases, and then the strain on the pension healthcare system. Okay, and that is an equation. That is a minus on the gross domestic product. Okay, um, so the gross domestic product is the amount of new income from sales of services, sales of products, and then you subtract from that the outgoing income that there's no return on, which is things like social services. Okay, so it's going to be cut. All right, it's going to be cut in half by the year 2030. Okay, So let's look at our aging population. All right, and what's going on. So this is exactly what we were talking about earlier, right here. You see right here that the divergence only increases. Okay, so we're looking at um, the comparison of people under the age of 5 to people over the age of 65. And you see, here we are at 2021, and it's already gone bush like this, okay? And there's going to be fewer and fewer on a percentile basis, okay? People under the age of 5, they eventually would become working population to support these people, all right? Like I said, Medicare and Social Security, these are not big bank accounts that we can just draw from. Money goes in and the money goes out. So that means there's going to be a higher taxation rate. It is what it is. Okay. Okay. Now we can look at adapting, and that's what this is all about. Certain countries, well, this is just a number. So they look at the number of, this is the speed of population aging. So it's an analysis where you went from 7 to 14% of the population in that country became 65 or above. All right. So France did this a long time ago. Okay. Again, this is just a number going from 7 to 14%. And you see, France did this, over almost 100 years. Okay, from 1865 to 1980. Okay. Sweden did it about the same time frame. Okay. We see that Australia, okay, was a little behind there. We go down. U.S., we did it right here. Okay, from 1944 to 2013. Okay, and then you see that and you go down and down and down here. This was an accelerated situation that happened in Japan, and that was because of the major decline in reproduction fertility rates. Okay. And then we come down here and you see the developing countries that are not ready to deal with this. It's happening really, really quickly. It is happening now. Okay. All right. So that's what this verbiage is over here on the left-hand side. It's describing all this. Okay. All right. So what we look at now, the increase in life expectancy. Remember what I was talking about. So if you're born today, you're expected on average to live to almost 80. Okay, that's what that's all about. Okay, so we see that because of improvement in diet, improvement in hygiene, improvement in medicine, so the life expectancy is 82 years of age in Japan. Okay. Our country, we actually went down to close to 77 because of the opioid epidemic last year. Okay. Alrighty. So now when we look at what's going on here, okay, and changes with an increase in life expectancy, we have to think about other things, okay, and these health transitions, okay. And when we look at that prior graph, when we're looking at these countries right here, what happened in Japan right here, okay? So we see right down here that not only do we see a steady increase in life expectancy from better hygiene, diet, medicine, but we at the same time see a shift from high to low fertility. That means less children. Many people don't even have kids anymore because they're so concerned about their financial well-being, about having a job and being able to survive. All right, and then in terms of economics, okay, not only are people living longer, okay, so a steady increase at the time of birth and at older ages, okay, life expectancy is increasing, but we see this, like I said, this shift from infectious disease and parasitic diseases to being non-communicable diseases, cancers and things like that, that really determine what's going to be your demise, what's going to kill you. Okay. All righty. So we can go down here and look at another graph that shows these transitions. Again, some of the data is historical. This article was written, I think, in 2017. And you can look at the likelihood of surviving in the United States. We're looking at females, and we look at two different groups. Groups looked at it in 1901, and groups looked at it in 2003. Okay, We see the 1901, which is right here, the blue group, okay? This is called the survival curve. And so let's say we have a million people. That would be 100% of a million people, okay? Or let's say we sample 100 people, all right? 100% of 100 people is 100 people, okay? And we see that within the first 10 years of age, you have almost a 20% loss of, of the population. This was due to infectious diseases. Back in 1901, we didn't have vaccines, okay? And when people got sick, we didn't know what to do. We didn't understand bacterial infections on top of viral infections, okay? Lots and lots and lots of progress has been made, okay? By 2003, people are getting vaccinated with against childhood diseases, and so you don't see this poof drop in 2003, okay? Um, and then down here you see that people also are dying a lot more quickly of that original 100. You know, by age 50, we're about 40% of the people are gone. Okay, we didn't know how to deal with cancer. We didn't know how to deal with heart disease. Okay, um, more modern times, lots of greater intervention. So people, that original 100 people out there living a lot longer. Okay, all righty. Okay, so we see at the time of birth, again, this increase in life expectancies. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, this is a global look going from 1840 to 2000. Right, so you see this dramatic increase. So back then, man, you had not a very good shot of living. On average, sure, there were the John Adams and things like that that lived a really long time, but on average, there were a lot of people that were taken out by infectious disease, by malnutrition and things like that. Okay. All right, very cool. All right, so I think we agree that people are living longer, and we have to look at consequences of this. Okay, all right. All right. So if you live longer, and because there's a greater likelihood of having these age-related diseases get you, okay, then you're going to have longer periods of time that you are disabled and you might require long-term care. We got to finance that. We got to figure that out. Okay. Somebody with diabetes may have diabetes and the associated health consequences, heart disease, Alzheimer's, cancer. These are all linked to diabetes. It may run its course over 20 years. Okay. And so we have to think about this in terms of long-term care, and we have to think about the financing of this. This consumes public resources. Medicare pays for this, and tax dollars pay for Medicare. Okay, awesome. So, people are living longer, okay? We need to think about pensions and retirement income that need to cover that longer life period. Healthcare costs, like I said, become bigger and bigger, bigger. A lot of you may think you want to be a doctor, okay? Or a lot of you may become part of hospital administration, and you will see that 90% of the doctoring that you do, 90% of the hospitalizations are older people, okay? Young people, your vaccines, you're good to go. Other than, driving like a maniac and getting in an auto accident, medical care is really for people that are older that have these non-communicable diseases, okay? All right, with the growth, like I said, intergenerational relationships, you're going to have to deal with your parents and grandparents. And we have these unprecedented increases in the oldest old, all right? All right, let's look at some distributions here, okay? So there, again, we are honing in on different countries, okay? On a global level, okay? The 85 and over population is projected to increase 151% between 2005 and 2030, all right? It's a much greater percentile basis than over 65, all right? So we're going to get a lot more older dudes, okay? And we can see this right here, okay? So we look at the entire population, okay? The percent increase, okay? So small percent increase right here in the 0 to 64. 65 plus, you see that we're going to see about 100% increase. We see right here 151 right here increase for the 85 and old. Yes, there's fewer of us, okay? It's a percentile, all right? And there's hardly any centenarians, but man, we're going to see a lot more of them right here, and that's what that graph depicts, okay? So what is the big deal? This is again gets into the burden of communicable disease. I'm going to go straight into this graph right here, and we can and here we can just compare countries like ourselves, Japan, France, okay, Germany. These are high-income countries. Okay, 2002. So I'm going to scroll down so you can see what we're looking at here. All right, so we look at the communicable disease. These are infectious diseases. Okay, diphtheria, whooping cough, vaccinations get rid of those, okay? Tuberculosis, on and on and on and on. They're still a big deal. Gastrointestinal diseases, they can be fought off with bacteria, okay? These right here are these communicable diseases, okay? Injuries, much greater in these lower income countries. And then these are diseases like heart disease, diabetes, okay? These are non-communicable diseases. And we see in 2002 that high income countries, we scroll back up here, the burden on financially on the country and the burden individually is much greater for these old age diseases, not these young age conditions, okay? You see that on average, a lot more infectious disease and accidents in these low income countries, okay? Their infrastructure is not just put together. We see by 2030, there'll be more progress made here. And in our country, in the wealthy countries, it gets more and more compressed, okay? All right, we get rid of more infections, get rid of more accidents, and more burden based on infectious disease, okay? All right, so let me end with populations, and population declines on a percentile basis, okay? And I jump right in here, okay? And we see that the biggest population declines are going to be in Russia, Japan, Ukraine, which is a neighboring country with Russia, okay? Um, so why are we seeing a population decline? We're going to see a decrease in the amount of reproduction by people like you, decreased fertility, okay? Increased likelihood of older people finally dying from these non-communicable diseases, and a lot more immigration too, right here in Russia. People leave Russia, right? So it's a big population decline anticipated in Russia. Okay, so we can hone in on Russia right here, and we see the distribution of different populations. So here's 0 to 4-year-olds, here's 75 to 79-year-olds. And you see this big decline right here in this all these different age groups in Russia, while there's still an increase in the older guys, right? That's an economic, sociologic imbalance that's going to happen in Russia, all right? So we're going to keep our eyes on Russia, all right? That's the bottom line there. All right, cool. So that's the interpretation of those readings. We've gone over it. I really encourage you to go over it yourself, okay? Do take a look at the syllabus. Like I said last time, take a look at the course. And I will be, I'm going to exit the preview right now so you can see how much more complicated my end is right here. This is my instructor view. And the reason I did this, I wanted to go into these right here. Hopefully you guys are familiar with Turnitin. I'll be going over these assignments with this. Again, with respect to the very last one, this is the interview paper. Interview your parents or your grandparents and take out your iPhone and record the whole session for posterity, okay? Because you know what? Your kids, your grandkids would love to see that video of you talking to your parent or your grandparent, all right? It's the way of the world, and you have your phones out all the time. Just tape the whole thing. I have it from my mom. I'm blessed that I have it. I did the same thing with my mom, who passed away about 4 years ago. She passed away at 95, and you know what? They pass away with family culture. So do take a look at it. All right, so I will instruct you. I'm not going to do it right now, as each time comes, about Turnitin. So you see now that I'm no longer in student mode, I am not a student. All right, and then you put all this information right here, your first name, your last name, put a title for the paper, whatever it is, and then I'm going to choose from this computer, all right, and then I would download it, and then from there you'll get a Turnitin receipt, okay, all right, and so do remember to get your Turnitin receipt, okay? And so in our how-to folders right here, it explains, how to do things, okay? And right here it is how to use Turnitin, okay? And if you go in here, there's an explanation to turn in, and this right here is the confirmation or the turn in receipt that you will get when you submit your paper. When you get that turn in receipt for this class, for any class, you make a copy and you put that file of whether it's into a Word doc or a PowerPoint doc. You put that copy of receipt into a folder so you now have proof. Okay, my wife's an attorney. Having proof of what you've done is essential, right? So that way, if the instructor says, "Hey, I never got your paper," you have your official turn-in receipt. Now, what I did is I blocked out the person's identity right here, but you'll get this confirmation. Okay, all right. So this again, it goes through everything that you need to do, okay? So when I selected the file, which I'm not gonna do right now, then you hit upload, all right? And then you confirm, okay? And then you have this confirmation with an ID number, all right? All right, and the receipt will be sent to you. So copy all that, guys, just to have evidence that you have succeeded. All right. I will give you more bits and pieces of wisdom as we go through here. This is going to be a great course, I promise you. Especially, we are going to get into some really cool details about the economics and financing. Okay, down in here, that's all this stuff is important. Talk to your parents about estate planning, man. We're going to do that here too. We're going to do some investing. It's a really, really cool course. I want you guys all to open up a Fidelity account or a Vanguard account while you're in this class and start your investing. All right, that's my goal. All right, guys. So I've talked too long. So that's it for today. Peace, and we'll see you next week.